I've spent most of my life living in London, and it's been the inspiration for all my songwriting, and basically for who I am today. But it's a city that's changed a great deal since I was a kid. Old buildings have come down, new buildings have gone up, fads and fashions have come and gone, because this is a city that never stays still. It's London's knack for reinventing itself that makes it such a great and exciting place to live. But sometimes in the rush to the future, important things get lost along the way. Old buildings, old trades, old ways of doing things. Those are the things I'm going to be searching out, and I'm starting my journey right here in the heart of London. Some of these shops along Charing Cross Road have been here for 150 years, but this one in particular has been trading under the same name ever since. But unfortunately, it might not be here for much longer. The tobacconists is a trade under threat, and I suppose in a way we should be pleased that it is. But you'd have to be a very hard-hearted person not to feel that we wouldn't be losing a little piece of history if a shop like this has to close. This is a lovely old place.
Thank you.
What's the origin of this shop?
Well, this shop was established in 1869. It was the first shop they built on Charing Cross Road, funny enough.
Really, yes?
Yeah, the actual road itself was called Hogs Lane, north of Seven Dials, and they bought in Charing Cross Road at a later date. So it's the first shop they built, and we've actually got the covenant of lease.
Because the Seven Dials was a rather rough old place, wasn't it?
I'm led to believe so.
Yeah, yeah, and Charing Cross Road was built so they could actually get the police in to calm the locals down. And what kind of stuff do you sell here? Presumably a fair bit of pipe tobacco.
Yes, indeed. The last count we had was about 220 Old London Sweet Cut, which is a nice smell.
Oh, that's very nice. So you've got chocolate and cherry vanilla and coffee?
Yeah, yeah. It's coffee caramel.
Wow, yeah, you could eat that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Have it on ice cream.
Yeah, indeed.
But you have got a lot of lovely variety here, but I presume it's not the best time for being in the tobacco business.
With legislation, it's hard. Definitely hard. It's getting harder. It's getting harder. A lot of specialists are closing down now.
And presumably you have your regulars?
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Lots of regulars.
And right on cue, here's one now. Stephen Fry agreed to give me the benefit of his knowledge as a pipe smoker and snuff taker. So as a pipe smoker of the year, I presume this is somewhere you come quite regularly?
I look in for my ready rubbed, as they say. But I love it anyway because it is it's an example of the kind of shops that are utterly disappearing from London. It carries paraphernalia. There's stuff that goes with snuff and with pipes, not just ashtrays, but strange little knives, reamers for charcoaling and sort of embedding the stuff on the bowl of your pipe. Now, this jobby here, there are various kinds. That's a Swiss Army version, but that's an example of what's known as a smoker's friend.
Do you think with the Swiss Army terrifically into pipe smoking, I suppose the alpine life is conducive to a decent
And look
pipe.
at this, you see here, which is where the shop gets its name, snuff. Now, snuff was a whole culture, particularly, obviously, in the 18th century. Snuff handkerchiefs and those beautiful enamelled and Sèvres porcelain snuff boxes that people used. Snuff, most people don't know what it is now. They know it's something that's pinched or taken off the wrist. It is just milled tobacco. It's milled really fine into this powder.
Shall we have a go?
Yeah, go on, shall we do it? Which we choose? We'll have a look here. What have we got? What are the sorts? Here we are. Café Royal.
Ooh,
so you take a pinch.
It sounds like the snuff of James Bond, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Café
now you
Royal.
either
Yeah.
dribble it along there or just straight into the nosy.
That's the way I've seen it done.
Yeah, I'll do it straight in the nosy because
In the
I've
movies.
got my wrist there, and we go like that. And
Okay.
don't be embarrassed if you sneeze.
Fair enough. We'll close the packet.
I shall.
Woo!
It delivers, doesn't
Whoa!
it? It
And there was
delivers.
coffee in that one, isn't it? It sent my right eye completely
Yeah,
bloodshot.
me too.
Oh!
Yeah.
Whoa! Leaving Stephen to make his purchases, I was allowed into that inner sanctum of the tobacconists, the humidor.
It's a humidified room.
To keep them nice and fresh.
Yeah, yeah. Cigar needs two things, and needs air and moisture. And once it's got that, it continues to mature for up to about 15 years after.
We've got a beautiful selection here.
Thank you.
What's the most expensive one here?
Most expensive one I've got is the Cohiba, which is the double Corona. It's a limited edition, 2003. And that one's £32.50.
£32.50.
Yeah.
All gone in 10, 15 minutes.
Well, that's about an hour and a half, that's
Is it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
And
a moment, smoke. That's where you sit and chill, just relax. Just
Yeah.
watch the world go by.
That's fantastic, as long as you haven't got a wife or kids or anything else to do, of
got
course.
that. Yeah.
But that is pricey, but is that the most expensive cigar I might be able to find?
Peter de Savary. he had a box of cigars for £125,000. They were £5,000 per stick.
God, wouldn't it be nice to know you could smoke a £5,000 cigar without worrying about it?
Indeed.
Nice idea, but I'm not really sure a cigar is me. What about a pipe? Of course, you've got your Sherlock Holmes. Elementary, my dear Watson. What about the pipe and slippers look? Bit too Harold Wilson. But of course, there's Hogarth. This might work. These apparently you can stick out the window and the missus doesn't know you're smoking. How much is this one? Of course, we all know tobacco isn't good for us, but if G. Smith & Sons does disappear at some time in the future, I'm glad I got to have a look around beforehand. Right now, I'm heading west. This still undeveloped site where the Westway flies over Wood Lane at Shepherd's Bush is where thousands once flocked for a night out. Here men once came to lose large amounts of money and freeze in the process. But the White City Greyhound track has had to go. There were once a dozen or more tracks in London. Today, only a handful are left, and a couple of those look as if they're on the way out too. But you can still get a good night at the Dogs. I'm here at Romford, and look at the queue. This place is a far cry from what I remember as dog racing. The idea of a posh restaurant overlooking the track? Well, I never. When I came here as a kid, all you could get was a pie and a cup of Bovril, and that was just to keep you warm. But look at this. Mille fruits. I don't suppose people 20 years ago would even know what that is, because I don't now. And look at this champagne. There's a bottle of champagne here for £100. Hey? I'll take two. In the earliest days, which of course I don't remember, greyhound racing was a fairly basic affair.
Hey, where are you taking those dogs? Oh, it's the parade. Putting them in the kennels, I mean the traps. The excitement is intense. Here's the body, I mean the hair. It's attached by a rope to this motor wheel and is dragged round the track.
It really was like that, according to the daughter of the man who founded the Romford Stadium.
They used to run the hare on they had a car, and they used to jack the car up, take the tyre off a back wheel and put the hair wire round the spool of the wheel and set the engine going, and of course it would get the... But of course the damn thing would break a lot of the time.
Their wheel is going round. That must mean, yes, they're off. Number 9 gets away to a flying start. Come on, Wild Woolly. Come on, Future Cutlet. Come on, Steve. Come on, the Arsenal. What a race.
The business flourished, but when times did get a bit hard, Carolyn's father, always the entrepreneur, tried something a bit different. Cheetah racing.
And they had to train them for 6 months, and then 3 of them came here to race. Two weekends running.
What an extraordinary sight that must have been.
And they had to fix a bit of real rabbit meat onto the hare, because otherwise the cheetahs they wouldn't run, would they?
No, they wouldn't be bothered.
So, yes.
They'll start fighting or even trying to jump out and eat some of the punters.
Can you imagine that? Oh, I wouldn't come, would you? I wouldn't be here, not for anything.
Tonight's racing should be a bit safer. You can still go out into the open air if you fancy it, and some people still like to leave the nice warm lounges and stand on the terraces for the races themselves. But they don't have to. You can have a bet while you dine, whether you're in the swanky restaurant or the hamburger bar. The tote girls will come to you, and if the spirit is with you, you might even get your hot dog and chips or boeuf en croûte paid for out of your winnings. Well, I suppose as I'm here, I better have a bet, only to be sociable, of course. I'm going to apply my very specific scientific logic to this. Number 1, Flame of Hope. That's what I've got, Flaming Hope. Number 2, Any Time Now. I could lose my fiver. Number 3, Magical Kingdom. Number 4, Buckland Wally. Well, what more can I say? Number 5, Sky Blue. Number 6, Goofy's Donna. Well, as I say, my scientific logic is leading me towards the favourite, Flame of Hope. Well, Jerry, old chap, as I'm here, I suppose I better have a bet. Yeah. I've got 5 very hard-earned English pounds here, and I'm looking, it's the favourite, is it, Flame of Hope?
Won't get you much.
No. but I'm not a very...
Have it on the 1 dog, will you?
I will do.
30 and wait on 25.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
5 minutes.
Can't look. I could win 30p here. Yes, he's coming through. Talent is temporary, class is permanent. Yes, there we go.
Ticket 61, John. £9 to the gentleman.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, got me bus fare home anyway.
Come again. Thank you very much.
Good luck. Well, what a jolly fine evening it's been. But I have to admit, my luck isn't normally that good. But I have won £4, with which I can pay for my bus fare home, and who knows, I might treat myself to a bag of chips. Coming up, the Thames, once London's main artery, with watermen its kings. Now, a river largely deserted but for tourist boats. The Thames, the main artery of a great city and where its whole story began. Men have been working this river since before the Romans came, and for much of the last century it was the busiest river in the world, because during the previous centuries the dock the Romans built 2,000 years ago had grown into the biggest port man had ever known.
The traffic is not like it used to be. Years ago, you could practically walk across the river from barge to barge, you know. There wasn't a lot of space because there was nothing but rows and rows of barges. We would row barges, but you don't see nothing like that no more.
It's very different today. Peter Duggan is part of a dying breed trying to eke out a living from this once thriving waterway. The ancient terms of watermen and lightermen who carried passengers and cargo live on, but only in the language of historians and survivors like Peter. When the river was London's commercial heart, its tug captains were its kings, towing ships into dock and barges loaded with everything from tea to iron, livestock to grain. When the docks closed in the 70s and 80s, all that disappeared.
The river's dead now compared to what it used to be. Years ago, if you was a waterman and lighterman, you had probably 5,000 lightermen. And you had what they call the dirty industry, which was the civil engineering side.
That's the business Peter is in. Gate 53 Dock Road, Silvertown, leads to the wharf where he moors his fleet of tugs and barges. It's the heavy work of building and maintaining the infrastructure of the river, towing the cranes and equipment and the raw materials the engineers need to fix the piers and bridges, and at one time, the docks. So Peter, what sort of jobs are you getting that have meant you've managed to survive?
Well, we do lots of different jobs, unusual jobs. And one of them was the London Eye, which was quite a nice job for us. The Wiggly Woggly Bridge come through this yard. What is...
As it shall forever be known.
The Wiggly Woggly Bridge. But we mainly do all the fireworks shows. We do 90% of the fireworks shows on the River Thames. Other than that, we've been surviving on building a home there for somebody up at Battersea. This is how we're scratching a living now to what we used to do. But at the moment, there's no big work here.
If you wanted evidence of just how tight things are now, Peter is cutting up his own barges for scrap. It's a tragedy for a man for whom the river is home and whose memories of it go back to wartime.
Early in the enemy's intensified air attacks on London, bombs were dropped on the Dockland area. These caused a big fire, which, as night fell, illuminated a wide section of London.
The docks running on both sides of the river, from Woolwich up to the city, and the tightly packed tenements and houses surrounding them suffered as much as anywhere during the Blitz. But the kids from the docks growing up after the war were part of a close-knit community, and Peter was just one of the many whose parents were used to hard times. Just getting a day's work was a lottery.
Right up till the late 50s, still operated, was the coal-on. And that's outside the dock gate where the shed foreman had come out first thing in the morning. Hundreds of dockers standing there waiting for a day's work. He'd pick his favourites And then the dockets that they get for work, he'd chuck up in the air, and then men used to fight for them dockets, and it was so degrading. And then, of course, about 9 o'clock, everyone in the street knew who got a day's work and who didn't, because the old man had come home at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, he didn't get, you know, bread and drip into him sort of thing.
Peter Wade was born on the Isle of Dogs in 1941. And what was community life like for you and the people growing up in this area?
Solid. Absolutely solid. You leave your doors open. If you were having a party one night, you didn't have a piano, then the lads would go down to that house and work it out and take it in the front room of your house. And nobody had anything, but you could have whatever you liked.
And if there wasn't quite enough to go around, there were ways of overcoming the problem.
The other fella who was going out with a barra for quite a long time, loaded up with lots of old toot. We got in there, George. You know what I'm like, I'll collect anything. Oh, all right. He just had to sift through it. This went on for ages. When the copper retired, he was in Charlie Brown's pub outside the gate. And he said, come on, George. He said, you must have been up to something, I know you. Yeah, he said, I was nicking wheelbarrows.
In them days, everybody used to work the docks for their own, what can I say? They used to go, like if somebody stole some tea out of a barge, it would be shared amongst the local community. Mrs. Smith might have some tea one day, Mrs. Jones might have some sugar the next day, and you always got a cup of tea being handed around, or a bowl of sugar handed around, you know. And that's how we survived years ago.
50 years later, Peter's struggling to survive again. I'm getting a very special tour up the river just to see how much his world has changed.
See Metropolitan Wharf?
Yeah.
That's what the wharves used to look like, but as you see, everything is housing now. This is Free Trade Wharf, where we're coming up to now. We used to have ships all along here delivering anything from steel to tortoises.
Yeah.
I know that because I took one home. We used to dive off the cranes and swim in the river here when we were kids. You had big cranes sticking out, we used to dive off the top of them.
Peter's River is no longer the working river it was. There is still work to be done, but it's not trade.
This boat you see coming past us now is a driftwood boat. It picks dunnage up from out the river, and as you see, it's got an old car on there, which has probably been dumped in the river at some stage. And they do a very good job of cleaning up the river.
And though tugs still tow barges full of West London's waste down to the estuary, what traffic does still exist today is made up almost entirely of pleasure boats.
This man will wave out to me, no doubt, on the wheel. There he is, see? Well, this is Wapping, the Hermitage side of Wapping. This is where I was born and bred. Our family was supposedly the biggest family in Wapping. My grandmother had something like 16 children, I think. And we've all been brought up and as watermen and lightermen through the family, engineers, watermen and lightermen. And this here where we're coming to now, that was Colonial Wharf. So that's where we were taken when the bombing was on. I bet there's a few people in there who'd like to talk to me and know all about this place.
Peter's world changed forever with the closure of the wharfs and warehouses and the growing fashion for riverside living.
This is an artist's impression of how part of London's rundown waterfront will look if a £22 million scheme is approved. The site is next to Tower Bridge, close by the Tower of London. It's 25 acres of dockland, built in 1829 and known as St Catherine's Dock. At present,
There's no doubt that the regeneration of docklands has been spectacular. In Canary Wharf, it's stocks and shares and currencies that are traded now. Docklands has changed so rapidly, it's already got a museum telling its history. Now it's a place for pilots and bankers, a place to keep a yacht, not a fleet of tugs. The new residents are very different to the old, and they don't always see eye to eye.
I had a guy ring me up and he says to me, I don't like your boats out there. I said, well, that's tough, isn't it? You know, well, why do you move here? Why do you move? I mean, the river's been here long before me and you.
So they actually want to remove the boats
Yeah,
altogether?
I said, we've been here long, the river's been here longer than me and you, and the watermen and lightmen have been here longer than the PLA. I said, and you're telling me you'll come here in 5 minutes that you don't like our boats here, move them. Surely, you know, they've got to come, either enjoy the river, see the way the river's working, or get more work to the river, or don't come and move here. You know, take your money and go elsewhere. We don't like these type of people who come here and think you're going to boss us around.
The old inhabitants of Docklands, the watermen and lightermen and the dockers themselves are a dying breed. How many of them or their children are likely to work in London's new financial centre? Who knows? Tonight, Canary Wharf is celebrating the arrival of yet another bank. And you guessed it, it's Peter down there. A bit of personal regeneration has meant that the breed's not dead yet. In the programmes ahead, I'll be meeting more people like Peter and searching out more of the places and buildings that make this city what it is. Sometimes the places I'll find will be magnificent, and sometimes just plain quirky.
All other council estates have got waiting lists, but these people are waiting to get out. Like, as we're here, they're waiting to actually try and move in.
They're the things which we take for granted until one day we wake up and they're gone. They've just disappeared.
So how many chapels are left today as far as
There are about 12 left.
Oh, yeah, man. And is it possible for a garden to disappear?
If something isn't done soon, it will be totally lost.
And in the next programme, the legacy of the man that gave us the red phone box. And why many family-run local pubs are going out of business.